All right, guys, we're on number 7. If you followed the whole way through, you're a champ. We're going through talking about ad schedule. You can find other videos for the previous sections on this page, somewhere around here. I'm sure you'll find it. You're smart. So we're talking about ad schedule. This one will be quick also. We're looking at opportunities here. This is going to be a little bit different for every operator, and it's going to be mainly different between whether or not you do online bookings or you're dependent on phone calls. Also very dependent on your follow-up process and how good you are at following up to people who called maybe the night before or the day before or on weekends or whatever. So this won't be a one-size-fits-all, but I'm going to show you how to find some data around this and also make some optimizations. So if we look at this point here for ad schedule is a fancy word for what times of the day or days of the week do our ads run. And there's also ways you can adjust bids for certain parts of the day if you wanted, which is a little bit more advanced. We won't talk about that. But what we want to do is make sure that we're making adjustments or at least reviewing the data across things like, are the ads running when we're not able or willing to respond? Are there days of the week or hours of the day that perform the best? And then from there you can take an action. The most common action is excluding a day of the week or an hour of the day altogether. But there's also the option again to downbid things. I'll show you that really quickly, but we won't go too deep on that. And so what we'll do is hop into our Google Ads account here. 1 second. Alrighty. And then you will look at the top here, the top section where it says reports. There's other ways to find this data, but I want to show you an easy way to find the data at an account level. And you can look at it for each individual campaign as well. But I do think an account level view is probably pretty good for the most part because your business is going to run similar no matter what campaign it is. And you just want to look for your time. So what we're going to do is click on reports and then look at predefined reports. We're going to find time. And you're going to see there's a day of the week report and hour of the day. Those are the two that we're going to look at. We'll start with day of the week. Hour of the day works very similar. It's just an hour of the day, not a day of the week. So we'll say day of the week. And we're going to come in here. And what we want to do is look at a good range of data. So if you look at like the last 30 days, that is the bare minimum amount of time I would recommend. I would recommend going much bigger, like 90 days, 180 days. You can go even further back if you want, but that's probably pretty good. 90 days is a good amount of time, in my opinion, and it really depends how much money you're spending as well to get a feel for what's going on. So we're using all time. It'll default to the date range you were just looking at. So just note we might want to say, last 90 days. And now this is going to be for all of our campaigns. We could even add a level of detail, just things per campaign in this report if we want. Let's just not do that for right now. Let's just leave that alone and keep it really, really simple. And what we can do here is look at, number one, how does our data look across these different days of the week? So if I look at this data this way, I'll notice that on the right side, if I'm tracking conversions pretty well, things look pretty even. I mean, we have on the low end a 2.7% conversion rate and a 2.93. I mean, things are pretty darn even. Our cost per conversion looks like we have a little bit of a spike during the week, but barely anything I'd worry about. We're doing pretty good here. So if I were to look at a different date range, where let's say maybe I noticed on the weekends my conversion rate is 1% and the rest of these are 2, I might say, geez, what's going on the weekends? Maybe you're not answering the phone as quickly. Maybe you're already booked up. If you're doing online bookings and people are not booking, that could be why. There could be other aspects to that as well. And you would want to maybe consider either, I would almost never say turn off a whole day of the week. It's possible you could do that if you just don't answer calls and you don't do online bookings. But realistically, you might just want to bid less for that day. And if you're not using smart bidding, it's very easy to do, and I'll show you that in a minute. The next report, very similar to this, would be hour of the day. So I'll just go back to our predefined reports, click on time, or hover, click on hour of the day. And now we're going to get a feel for what hour of the day, get myself out of the way here, what hour of the day has these issues. Now, the most common things you're going to find is that people who are, I just got myself right back in the way again. People who are looking in the middle of the night are typically your worst converters. So you can see we spent $150 worth of cost between midnight and 1 p.m. And just so you know, this is the time zone set in your Google Ads account. So it could be midnight for you, but really be 3 a.m. For people on the East Coast if you're on the West Coast, or it could be people in other countries. So this is going to be not perfect for the individual user. This is more relevant to your account. But I can see here that our conversion rate during this hour is 0.15%. And during the day when things are popping, I mean, it's like 3%, 4%. So this would make a great case. And it does taper off in the night, as you can see here. So this would be a perfect example of somewhere we'd probably want to exclude those people if we're not looking to go after volume. And if we are looking to just save money, which is what we're talking about with this cheat sheet. To me, I'm looking at this and saying, well, I'd rather spend $20 or $30 during the day for a conversion rather than 60 or 70 if there's enough available. Maybe I'm already capped out over here and I'm like, well, I got to grow. So I got to do it by spending more in the off hours. That could be a solution here. So what do we do? So once we recognize this data, then I might say, okay, well, you know what? Let's get rid of the mornings. Let's get rid of the evenings and just focus during the day. Or let's bid them down really heavily first and see if we can get that $70 cost per lead to be more like a $30 cost per lead. So what do? We go back into our reporting. If you're on this page, you can just type the letters G and then C really quickly. It takes you back to your all campaign view. It's a quick little hack. And then what you'll do is by campaign. This is done by campaign again. So I'll just go to this campaign. Go to our, not our settings. You may have to hit show more right here if it's not showing you this option for ad schedule. And this is where you can see a lot of the same data you were just looking at, but this is showing what your actual schedule is. So we know in this account or this campaign that Mondays from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., and you can see right here, it's like a little graph of your coverage. So these grayed out areas, we're not running any ads, and these we're not either. But something going on here, you can see we're adding a positive bid adjustment, meaning that we're willing to pay, in this case, 5% more for people during this window of time. And here we're willing to pay 5% less. And here it's just regular. There's no adjustment. So you can look at it in a table here, or you can look at it in a chart like this. This is a little bit more visual. But maybe you don't have anything here. It just says all hours of the day. You would just go in here and you would set your days, and you would accordingly. It could be all days. It could be Monday through Friday. It could be just Saturday and Sunday. You can choose individual days and set those up. And let's just say you already had all days and times. You want to add all your hour blocks in there. And then if you just want to get rid of some, you just wouldn't include, like say we didn't want to include 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. We would just not include that. We would just do it like this. We'd start at 5 a.m. and go forward up until whatever time of the night. But if you just wanted to do it like we did here with a down bid, a negative adjustment, you would still include that time window. Like you see, like this one's included and you would just see a blank. You just want to add a, let's say a decrease for whatever percentage. And I would recommend, if you saw what we just looked at before, where we're getting normally $30, $40 cost per lead and we're getting 60, 70, you might want to downbid that by 30% or even 40%, or sometimes it might just be 20. It depends on your level of how fast you need this thing to turn around and how much waste you want to cut. Because what happens is if you go too heavy and you lose all the traffic, now you might not be able to get people back as easily because you'll end up forgetting that you did that, and then coming back to it's very, very difficult to remember. So it's just another talking point. So this is basically all you need to do to be able to identify opportunities in the report I just showed you. You could even look at, you don't even have to do that part I showed you in the report. I just feel like it's a little bit more helpful sometimes to see the data in a big window and a big report like this, rather than have to try to make heads or tails on an individual campaign level. And you could do it at the account level from those other screens as well, but I think this is more helpful for getting big picture data and then coming up with some of these wins that you can find. So if you have any questions, let me know. Hope this is helpful, and see you in the next one.